Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I'm the player who plays as the King Under the Mountain, and today I'm going to do my second season update on this server. Not a lot is happening still because we're still kind of all stuck behind passes, even though the first passes have opened up. We're going to go through the leaderboards. We're going to go through a slight change to my gear. We're going to go through the kingdoms and the map because they've started to form. The map looks a little bit weird as it's all a little bit blue. People probably could have organised themselves better, but we'll come into the map when we get to it. As you'll see, I've changed my settlement style. We are going to talk through that. And we're probably going to talk very, very briefly about initiative and agility and things like that. And some units I'm going to use this season, I think, or at least to start with. So we'll start with the leaderboards. It's probably the easiest place to start. You will see I am currently sat in 11th place. And to be honest, I haven't really pushed tiles for a couple of days. You'll see when I come to the map that I've not really pushed tiles for a couple of days. I'm focusing more on buildings and on basically just trying to get some troops together for hopefully some PvP, probably early next week. So just to scan through the top 50. Of course, Raven is still top. And of course, Mavius, King Farmer of Middle-earth, is second. What I would like to do next season, possibly, is create a fellowship called Farm and put 5 people in it and see how high up the fellowship rankings we can get. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, merit board-wise, there is some merit. There seems to be some people who are fighting against themselves. They'll see some people here who are outside of fellowships, all trying to level up. I probably need to do a little bit of that myself, to be honest. Partly because I haven't had a fight for what feels like forever now. As for Fellowship Affluence, you will see that our kingdom, the Order Toby Kingdom, is still top of the pile. Lame are also at 3 million, and then you have Bear and Honk at 2.9 each, respectively. Everyone has a lot of land. What is quite interesting is Nikki, or Nikita, or Gods, and have all kind of grown to this 1.2 million mark. Nice to see some other fellowships on here. Nikki are in the area that's close to us. You then have Joy with 1 million. Food, which is Eat Me at 926. And then you kind of go into the smaller ones. Really like this DMDS fellowship. I mean, calling yourself the Demolition Monsters is pretty cool, to be fair. And then there is a sneaky bit of Yudes the Legacy in here, which I would assume is some alts which are floating around just to see what's going on in this server. I believe Yudes themselves are starting an RP server of Evil, which will be interesting in a few days' time. Or it may have even started yesterday, actually. But anyway, that's that one. Commander-wise, and we're going to look through this just very, very quickly because it's quite interesting to see where people are at and who's still top of the pile in regards to commanders and what people have been using for PvE. You will see that there is a lot of Danes. There are a lot of shadows for this list if you go down. There are a lot of Bjorns, some Gills, which you'd expect really with being PvE in the main. Lots and lots of Danes. Love to see the amount of Danes. Gimli, Saruman. I haven't seen as many Saruman as I thought I would see at this point. Nice to see a helm in here. I wonder if he's got his gear on. Attack helm. Nice. Oh, respect 9 attack helm as well. Very nice. Then you've got some Undyings. You would expect to see some Undyings at this point because, again, great for PvE. Lots more Danes. So there is a slight variety in comparison to where things used to be, which is nice. I think things are slightly shifting in the meta, just a little bit, not a great deal. But it's nice to see some Saruman starting to come through. Obviously, people have took some time to get some respect for Saruman, I would say. Nice to see an Eomer. Now, this guy here, I'm pretty sure is a bear, but I would assume he's gone here to get some farmland in Rohan. He's always had a pretty cool Eomer, to be fair. He had a great Eomer in 1.0, I think, from memory. So that's the top 100. Like I say, there isn't a great deal happening in this server at the moment. Before we go into kingdoms, I am going to go into settlement style. And I know I kind of mentioned this in my last video. We're just going to go back through a couple of the favourites. So I've currently chosen the Uruk-hai style. And there is a reason for that. It is basically because I get this conscription cost minus 10%. And I also get plus 10% barracks capacity, which if I get there before fighting will be very handy because I can have an extra 10% in my barracks, which is quite nice. It's about another 15k's worth of troops, a couple of marches worth, happy days. Got to be able to get there, if I'm honest, which isn't likely, but we'll give it a go. Dwarven has always kind of been my preference in the past, but realistically, with the way it now works, and I'll show you from the settlement, there's not really any point in keeping Dwarven. You may as well go for Urukai and just take the 10% conscription across all units rather than just Dwarves. I still really like the Morgul Orc style. I think these extra ability points, particularly in war, are really helpful. Obviously for gathering, but the same thing. Once you've gone through that first 15% of barracks, if you're in a non-sustainable war, the likelihood is that you're not going to be able to get back to full barracks at any stage, or you'll be very close. That's where these ability points start coming in. We found them really, really helpful versus teams like DK because your forts get smashed a lot, so you can build more forts, you can obviously gather more stuff. So I do think it's between the Morgul and the Urukai now, which are probably the best two. And I'll kind of just show you why I think that way. Basically, with the way it now works, obviously I started with a dwarf settlement. If I change my settlement style, which I have done to Urukai, I still have dwarf as my first barracks. So it's quite nice that they've made that difference. And then my other quarters, I've now got bow knights, and I'll probably try and over time. This one's quite an expensive quarter generally once you get into the top level. So I do need to get this to get to Felbeast eventually. But I haven't got that far yet. I'm just trying to get myself some ground troops for PvP. I'll very quickly touch on my barracks because it's slightly different to what I would normally run. I say slightly different. I'm still going to be running Guardians. So my plan is to start with at least Guardians on Gandalf the White, because my Gandalf the White is very tanky. We'll kind of go into that afterwards. He'll get a lot of sustain into them, and they will do really well for me, I think, in that. I plan to run Bow Knights on my Dane. I plan to run, you'll see I'm upgrading some units here as well, which is quite useful. I plan to run War Drummers on Sauron. And the reason behind this is that even though I'm accepting the fact that I'm going to run into a lot of Bjorns, and the Bjorns are going to get increased damage versus the Warm Drummer. But my Sauron's got around about 600 commands, so I'm kind of banking on him being able to tank through that damage. Obviously, Bjorn has to hit that unit for it to actually be effective. And I'm using this for a couple of reasons, really. One is to get this 2 instants of damage at plus 20%, which I think could really help me out against some Kraken formations. But mainly remotivate, giving me the chance of removing a debuff. And the plan is, because my formation's quite slow, this is another reason why I looked at it this way. And trying to play percentages, I guess, really. My plan is to run the War Drummers faster than my 2DDs. So, in theory, they have a percentage chance of cleansing anything that goes wrong with Saruman or Dane. So I think that's quite a useful way of looking at it, and I plan to start that way. I may change eventually to something like a Troll, or I did promise myself this season that I was going to build Cataphracts for Sauron, and then run Bow Knights on both Dane and on Saruman. But the issue with that might be that I haven't got the Cataphracts barracks yet, so I can't really do that. So at the moment, I've took a camp and I'm going for War Drummers and just see how they go, because I've never really used them. I have got some Shire Ponies. They are a plan to be on Saruman, and I'm just going to bank on the fact that hopefully Dane doesn't draw the sort of pull from the Shire Ponies into the Bow Knights, which would not be ideal, to be fair. So that's kind of where we're at with troops. I do have a lot of heavy axe throwers, which I plan on converting into tier 3 throwers, and then I'm going to chuck them in the back line as well to start with, probably just to use them up. I had them anyway for PvE, and they were very useful for PvE. So I'll get through those, but I don't plan on replacing them. From there, depending on what goes on with Sauron and how much there is going on, I'm likely to either use Berserkers, or I'm likely to use, like I say, Cataphracts on him, because I'm not running any kind of speed set on him. So if I just go through, I have made a change to my gear today, try to go through this in some resemblance of order. So the plan is, obviously my Gandalf the White's also quite slow, and this is a small problem for me. I say small, it's quite a large problem. So I've dropped my focus today to just over 200. So I accept the fact that I'm going to get hit by a Sauron pretty much every time, unless it's a really slow Sauron like mine, which will take down my White Council. But he is now so tanky, and I can refine this a couple more times once I get another hammer. So theoretically, he should make those Guardians really, really tank well. And I'm trying to build him for 10 rounds of protection, in effect, so that Saruman and Dane can get through some work. So that's kind of the theory there. You'll see his speed is 39. My Sauron speed is 31. And again, I have evasive and a protection set. I would like to change the evasive if possible to... I really like divide and conquer these days. So again, my Sauron's slow. I accept the fact that, again, other people's Saurons are going to get in before me. But I'm still faster than most people's DDs, apart from Bjorn. And I don't want to be faster than Bjorn, because I want to be able to hit him potentially with Madness at the end of round 3, so that he does Skin Changer in round 4 and hits himself. So there is a theory behind that. And again, I'm looking to tank here. So the theory is, by not making him fast, I should get 10 rounds of protection. And I'm just hoping that RNG doesn't completely cripple me. Which, I don't know, there's two schools of thought on that, and that's just the way that I'm looking at it for now. I may have to change, I don't know. But with 600 command, again, pretty tanky. So that was that. So I need to somehow pick up 8 speed, ideally, to get him faster than my Gandalf the White. I mean, ideally 9 speed, if I'm honest. Particularly now he's got this call. It was a lot easier before when I just had the helm. So I'm not quite sure how that's completely going to work. Obviously, I'm going to get 5 for Guardians, and I don't plan on running all smalls. So if I only add 10 onto that, I'm still too slow. So the theory was I was going to get to Cataphracts or something slightly quick, like a Swan eventually. Then my Sauron is faster than my Gandalf the White. And then everyone can kind of do that. But for now, I'm okay with that, because I'm not really too fussed if I don't debuff Gandalf in the round. I'm more interested in debuffing the likes of a Dane, who's really slow, and I'm more interested in debuffing my Saruman, who is also really slow. Now, what I might do as the season goes on, because I'm feeling like it's a season of experimentation, why not? I have a plan to maybe run agility on Saruman all the way across the board, and try and catch the fact that unless you have some sort of speed piece in your Bjorn, I get another chance at maddening Bjorn because I'll be faster than him. So with Voice of Saruman, I've got an extra chance of getting that madness in there. Just to see if it helps. So then I'd have 2 attempts of getting Bjorns. There's a lot of Bjorns in this server. A lot of people are now talking about Bjorn being better than Dane. I still don't see that myself personally, because I think the ceiling damage of Dane is far substantial than Bjorn. Far more substantial for an Englishman. That was terrible English, but there you go. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So I might end up switching this to full agility. I may even go to the Signet to make him slightly quicker again, but then I would lose a little bit of focus. Not a lot, but a little bit. So that's that. That's kind of where I'm at with the formation. Like I say, I plan on running Shire Ponies on Saruman, and then just about keeps him below the threshold that I need for Sauron. So that should be fine. And that's kind of how I'm planning on building the formation for the first however long, and we'll see how that sort of goes. The next point I suppose I better show really is the map. I will obviously update people on what's going on with that and kind of go through it. So from a map perspective, and this is where things got a little bit silly. So as you can see, there hasn't been much diplomacy so far, much talking between kingdoms, it seems, because this is the Order Toby Kingdom in this lovely light blue colour, and this is the Lame Kingdom, which is in this slightly darker blue colour. Now, obviously, there is an entire colour wheel when you come to choose your kingdom. Why on earth they've both gone the same, I don't know. But the fun part about this is, if we're getting absolutely smashed, I will just change the colour filter slightly and make it out that we're not actually getting absolutely smashed because the colour's fine. So that's that. You then have the Honk and Bear Kingdom. They actually joined up, I think it was yesterday. So they are coming out of Darklands and out of the Land of Five Streams. They are now in the Wold and coming across to Fangorn. We took Orthunk yesterday. There is a lot of keeps in here. We've been taking a lot of keeps, and you'll see in comparison, you've got, I think Lame is only 1 fellowship, so they've also done pretty well. It's shaping up to be a nice sort of longish fight, I think, which will be interesting. I don't think there's been any Diplo from anyone yet, which is always nice, I think. So there's people setting up at different passes which open up. I think it's Monday, so we'll see what happens when they open up. But that's kind of the map. Obviously, there are some small fellowships sort of dotted around. From a tile perspective, I have 4 forts so far, and I've got a Shire Pony camp or 2, and I've got a War Drummer camp. Other than that, I only have 113 and 112. With the production that I've got, you'd think I'd probably have a little bit more than that, but my base is basically 10s, and I always build it the same way. And this is probably the first season that I've had a more even balance of resources. I'm trying to see how that goes. Generally, I tend to live off stone, so we're going to see how that goes. I did pull on the Arda chest, so I do have some gold. I am contemplating reforging Sauron's unique for the second time, mainly because, I mean, the rolls on this were absolutely disgusting. Even one command roll at this point, I'd ideally like 2, but even one command roll at this point, I'd be pretty happy with it. Getting back over 600 command, which I'd be fairly good with. There are some good packs in game at the moment, which is quite nice. You have the Middle Earth Valuables one, which is a good one. You have a Long Journey, which seems to pop up now after about 4 or 5 days. I don't really know why that is, but it pops up after 4 or 5 days in. It used to come up on the first day. And you've got the Return of the King pack as well, which is also quite good. They've also got some different packs now on the website, which are quite interesting. So it's worth having a look through those and seeing what they've got on their own website. And that is kind of everything that I wanted to talk through. Like I say, there isn't a great deal else going on. We're on chapter 6. There's already that many people over there. All the chapters have been unlocked. You know, they're all time based, but apart from Heroes Gather, I think all of them have been done. Disappointing Heroes Gathered isn't there. Probably a couple more fellowships would have been nice to get over that, but they're just slightly smaller fellowships. But they seem fun to play around with. I plan to probably use some of these stamp pots that I seem to have acquired at some stage. But I plan to trade in these here and keep trying to get Saruman up to Respect 12. The plan is eventually to get him to Z level. It will take time. It feels weird trading in Dane coins after all this time, but I really don't need to push him any further. And I don't really want any of these guys. Maybe Undying at some point, but I don't think I can get him to a level that's going to make him viable for me quick enough. So I might as well just try and get the A-team up and running properly. And that is literally where we're at. So there is no war really yet. I've had one fight with a Pather that got me something like 714 merit from a guy who was destroying a fort with about 1,500 troops. Yes, it felt nice, but reality is it's not really a fight yet. So I might try and get a couple of fights in today by dropping Kingdom and see what it is and bring some more fights for Monday, hopefully. But in the meantime, if in doubt, as always, follow your nose.